roaring success. But for two of its engineers, that obviously isn't good enough, because they've left to set up on their own and build their dream sports car. The Census is the brainchild of Robin Hall and Andrew Barber, who raised £500,000 of private investment through the government-backed Business Link scheme and set up their own company, FBS, which modestly stands for the future of British sports cars.
Well, the most important thing was it enabled me to hand my notice in, leave my day job. And the next thing was we made some major investments, the biggest one being the software. We bought the same CAD system as used by BMW Group, for example, which is the system I've been using. We then were able to move into these premises and spent a lot of money on the tooling for the bodywork and so forth. But the most important thing was the handling, and really that starts with the stiffness of the structure. So absolutely the main target was to have the stiffest car in its class, and we've achieved that, definitely. There's no many parts in it whatsoever.
The majority of the car, and certainly the important bits, are uniquely designed for the car, but we pick up a certain amount of the car from Ford, some parts of it from MG, and other parts are generic just from suppliers who supply the whole industry.
On first sight, there also seems to be a familiarity to the shape of the Census. Those headlights certainly have a hint of Alpha GTV, and that rear, a touch of TVR Tamora perhaps?
The styling was a result of a competition we ran at Coventry University. We had 11 proposals from postgraduate students, and the winning design was by a guy called Giovanni Doglioli, who's Italian obviously, and happens to have done a lot of work at Pininfarina as well.
So with everything in place, all FBS now need is a dozen or so buyers to stump up deposits and they can get into full production. The Census costs £25,750 and they need 50 customers a year to make a profit. First impressions? Well, it's raining and yes, I've got the roof down. Well, it doesn't quite fit properly yet, and in any case the Census looks much prettier without it. Let's face it needs all the help it can get in the pretty states. But once you're on the inside, you instantly fall for this car. You've got the perfect driving position with adjustable steering both for brake and reach. You sit low and snug. There's a chunky Tremec 5-speed change. The steering weight is just right. It's got power assistance, but it's still got a lot of feel. The brakes have got servo assistance, but you've still got a nice solid pedal which you have to press pretty hard to make them lock up. And once you wind that rev counter around the clock, the 2.5 litre V6 Duratec engine sounds really encouraging as well, producing 170 horsepower in a lightweight chassis. There's performance aplenty. This is a real driver's car that instantly asks you to get on and drive it. Now I can really enjoy flicking this little sports car around. If I want to see who's behind me, I'll just have a look behind it. Who needs rear view mirrors? Once more, okay. There is a limited slip differential in the back of the Census, but it spins a bit too much. I'd like a slightly stiffer one, but the change of direction of this car is really excellent. If you're thinking of a track day car with a bit of a difference, then the Census could just be the one for you. The final word? Well, it's always rather difficult when you're analysing someone's dream, a British sports car that's still just a prototype. But it reminds me of when I tested Lee Noble's first car, the M10. Like this, it had a stiff chassis, it was a real driver's car. It also had the Duratec V6 Ford engine. But apparently when I dared to slightly criticise its styling, Lee Noble nearly threw the television set out of the window. I just hope the boys from FBS don't do the same thing. After all, the latest Noble is a huge hit. And besides, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.